UOL's desk.
Thank you very much, guys. It's just heartbreaking for Origen because it happens time and time again. But besides starting negatively about the turnaround, we have to also highlight the early game strategy from the Unicorns of Love to show that they aren't flawless by any means. What was that invade about exactly?
Well, I love the strategy of go in and somehow try and take on a Jace and a Hecarim early game. It looked like they were trying to just kind of 50-50 the blue buff.
I think the strategy was that if we catch them by surprise and they take a chunk of damage from the blue, then we can just sort of insta-nuke them. Yep. But I feel that you had to be a little bit more patient, maybe set up some vision control earlier because it's Rumble and it's Hecarim. And at level 1, like, you're definitely in the disadvantage here.
Yeah, sorry, it was Rumble, as you said. I said Jace initially. We've seen these plays start to work out. We saw it SKT do it, where they hop over the wall, go in with the Kha'Zix, smite away the blue.
European
Everything's
SKT.
Great.
UOL.
Yeah, it doesn't work so well, as you said, against these strong early game damage champions. And this is where, like, a lot of people will look at it and say, okay, Origen, they seem to have a good early game. We've discussed this, and this specifically was Unicorns making some really weird mistakes, like trying to go in, trying to take that fight, and then later on in the mid lane, Exile just being like, hey, I can stay in mid lane against Hecarim that's already started snowball, and I've got no flash.
Well, Origen here makes the right decision. They're like, Hecarim has a kill, let's go for it.
And this is good to see from Origen, because the fact that they had that early start, Deficio was talking about it during the cast, where Zach was constantly playing catch-up, and he could never really exert the same sort of early pressure that Wisdom could. And this was really nice to see from Wisdom, the fact that they just punished Exile time and time and time again. Every time his flash was down, they would look for a gank mid. And this is where we really started to see a lot of promise for the side of Origen.
Definitely, and with them building up a gold lead again early, good coordination between mid and jungle, everything's going well, and you start to feel it already. You see some of these little pickoffs, and we got scared, and I think you said at 20 minutes, it's gonna happen, it's gonna turn around, and OG have to make sure that they don't make the same mistake again.
So the actual setup for this play, you can just see, if you look at the actual vision being set up from Unicorns, this is the problem that we've been identifying with Origen, the fact that they're playing around vision that they don't have. And the fact that there is nobody being spotted on the map when the entire bot side is lit up for Origen, and they feel that it's okay to be this far forward up in the mid lane. So this is where you start to see that the Unicorns can take advantage of the mispositioning from OG. So already OG is split up, and things initially look fairly promising, but then given the advantages that Unicorns have, and given the positioning that they're in, just splitting up the entire OG roster, makes it easy for them to clean up this fight.
And Origen had pinged time and time again that they were in that bush. They knew where Unicorns were on that play. There was that whole, funny back and forth where Hiva was looking like he wanted to go aggressive. But the rest of Origen just weren't ready. Sartorius was TPing late into the fight. They weren't quite crossing up to the mid lane with Jace fast enough, and from there, we just saw time and time again Xerxes go right into the back line on Tabs and just take him out. Of every single fight, Tabs had to duel against Zach every time, and he just didn't have the damage to do it. Zach, even building redemption and that kind of thing, has so much impact when he's 1 versus 1 against somebody that's such low mobility that it was a struggle for Tabs in this game, purely because of how on his own he was.
Yeah, well, it's 4 games in a row now, sadly, for Origen, where they don't manage to hold on to the advantage. So that's something they're going to have to think about and mediate. However, I can feel if they go into a game or a match versus Vitality and this happens, it could turn into a very scrappy game that they could end up winning.
And even when you look at the current state of Splyce, you have to wonder...
the current state of Splyce. What match!
Just from what we've seen, but if you look at the early game from Origen and they take advantage of this against a perhaps weaker team, maybe they can make their way through the group.
For Unicorns, I don't think they'll get the same kind of thing against H2K Saturday. That's such an interesting series.
Indeed, that match of the week coming up Saturday. But now for more on the Unicorns' 2-0 win, Drakos is standing by with the player of the series.
Thank you very much, Shocks. I, of course, am standing by the player of the series, none other than Hillisang. Congrats, first off, on player of the series. Really solid performance overall. But the first question, I kind of want to get into the nitty-gritty here. What's going through your mind when your mid laner is dying over and over again in the early game, and how does that affect your thinking when you're kind of isolated on your own in the bottom side?
Well, this game kind of felt like old UOL when we had Exile in the beginning, and they just gank mid non-stop, and we keep dying. But this time he's more experienced, and he took it more easier, and we kept saying that it's all right, and we have better team comp, and we're going to win later on.
Sounds like a solid strategy. Good to hear that the confidence was still there, even if it was a shaky early game. Now, we saw a little bit of inconsistency in both of the early games in this series, Origen having a decent gold lead at multiple points. Is this an issue for Unicorns of Love that you've seen propping up, having a weaker early game, or is this kind of a bit of a fluke here on the stage?
Definitely not. I think in the first game we had a weaker composition early game. For example, they had all dominating lanes. They had counter pick into Karsu into Rice, and they had Zyra bottom. And even top lane, they had Jace Shen matchup, so they were supposed to win early game, but they didn't win it hard enough to snowball over it. So we did pretty good first game. And in the second game, I think we failed a cheese on their blue, so we died there. And the matchup was hard again, so yeah, and they snowballed over mid lane. But yeah, it worked fine at the end.
In the end, pulling it out. Now, of course, you guys have potentially a much tougher opponent coming up, H2K, looking like one of the strongest teams in the group, if not the strongest team. Do you feel prepared going into that series, and what are your thoughts overall?
I feel confident going into H2K game. I'm not sure how strong they are because they have like 3 new players in their roster, and yeah, I'm looking forward to play them and see how strong they are.
All right, well, thank you so much for talking to me. Of course, that's going to do it for us. We're going to get ready for our next series, but don't go anywhere because coming up next, it's Roccat versus G2, and it's going to be absolutely insane. We'll be right back after the break.
Yeah, no summoners this time. They knock Exile back in, and this is going to be it. Nahun claims the kill. Wisdom, though, is just going straight in once again. No summoners on Exile, and just like clockwork, Wisdom cleans him up. But now the rest is on Nahun, flashing back to safety, and Samek hits him with a big bullet. Cersei not letting Wisdom off that easy, and there's no more passive, but there is a heal. Samek's with a double kill, and that'll be the fight. The Realm Warp, Cersei cleaning up. Now they find Wisdom again, and that's the ace. 20 minutes in the game. Oh boy, the Charbro's on. There we go. Samek's with a godlike. Tab's trying to kite it out, but this is over. Tab's the last man standing, and not for very long. And there's the ace. And they will take the 2-0 over Origen.